NXT made its live debut on USA Network Wednesday night, and by all measures, it was a big success. They had a hot crowd at Full Sail, some really good matches, and they did a little bit better than I thought they would when the ratings came in. 1.179 million viewers. Overnight viewers, so it may be a little higher by now. I don't know what USA's expectations were. I know their Suits show, which is, I think, coming to an end, averages just under 1 million viewers each week. But I would think everybody has to be happy with that number. And AEW is going to have a tough time topping that, I think. Not that they can't. Until they actually debut, we really don't have any idea what interest level there is in a weekly television show for AEW. I think wrestling fans are excited, by and large. Are they excited enough to the tune of over 1.1 million viewers? That I don't know. You know, they may come close. I mean, look, I've been predicting 500,000 for months now for that first AEW show. Maybe I'm just playing it safe. But, you know, whereas 500,000 would have been a disappointment for NXT, I think 500K would be a number for AEW to build off of and to grow. You know, but if NXT does a similar number this week as it did last week, the pressure is going to be on AEW to pull a similar number. And if they don't, you know that the discussion, rightly or wrongly, the discussion is going to be kind of negative. But I think it's very different starting a new show from scratch. NXT has been an established brand. You could say it has a niche audience. That's true. But NXT's been around now for what, 5 years? 6 years? This is not their first rodeo. This is still a new brand. AEW's had some big shows, but they have not had weekly television. This is a brand new company. This is a brand new promotion. It's a very different situation. And also remember, those million plus were for a 1 hour show. We don't know how many people switched over to the WWE Network. Had they gone 2 hours on USA, it's entirely possible that that drags the number down and they don't do 1 million overall. Maybe the first hour does 1 million and the second hour does, 700,000. So we'll find out in a few weeks because they're doing this one more time and then they go 2 hours on USA starting October 2nd. But for this week, it has to be seen as a very good number for NXT, even excellent. An excellent number for NXT. Speaking of the network, I was one of the many who had issues logging on for that second hour to the point where I just gave up. I threw my hands up in the air. I said no mas. And I watched it the next day instead, which is probably what I'm going to wind up doing anyway once AEW starts, especially if I do any kind of live streaming on YouTube for the AEW show on Wednesdays, which I'm leaning towards doing right now. I heard that WWE sent emails to network subscribers apologizing about what happened and not being able to access the network. I never got an email. I've been a network subscriber since day one in 2014. I've been a loyal subscriber to the network. Pay my $9.99 every month like a jabron. I keep hearing about people getting free months. I'm sitting here paying $9.99 a month, which I still think is a steal. I never got an email. Where's my email? Hey, WWE, where's my apology? What am I, chopped liver? Show overall I thought was really good. That first hour was the better hour of the two. Really, the only bad thing I thought on the show was the match between Xia Li and Aaliyah during the second hour, which barely went 2 minutes anyway. It was just more of a showcase for Xia Li, but they looked rough. Towards the end, they looked rough in there together. I like Xia Li. She's got a lot of promise, but she slipped. She's trying to do a move off the top, and she slipped. And look, shit happens, right? People slip. So she slipped. But it felt like after that, it's almost like maybe it was Aaliyah. She looked kind of confused. She didn't know what to do, and they did a whole series of moves, and it just looked bad. This match just fell apart at that point. Thankfully, this match did not air on USA. Opening their first live show on USA with the ladies, I feel like years ago would have been considered this bold move. And it's funny, today, no one that I saw anyway really thought anything of it, which I think is a testament to how things have really changed. And I thought the women killed it. I thought it was the best match on the entire show. I like this match even more than Roddy and Velveteen Dream. It was Mia Yim, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and Candice LeRae, with the winner challenging Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship on October 2nd. Io was up top ready to show Charlotte Flair how to hit a proper moonsault where you don't land on your feet, when Mia Yim shoved her off the top rope onto Bianca Belair, who was standing down on the floor. So now the two of them are wiped out. Candice hits Mia with a reverse Rana, spiked her right on her head, hit the Cabrata, and picked up the win. And what did I say 2 weeks ago? What did I say 2 weeks ago on the podcast? Io Shirai wins this if it stays a three-way, which is what it was originally announced as being. And Candice then costs her the championship on October 2nd. Unless William Regal adds Candice to the match, in which case Candice would be my pick to win. And that's exactly what happened. Now the question is, who wins between Candice and Shayna? Do they change the title? Or does Io cost her the match? I don't think Candice wins yet. I actually think there's a better chance of Brock Lesnar winning the championship from Kofi Kingston, which he's going to anyway. But the question is, does he do it on SmackDown or do they rematch 2 days later at Hell in a Cell? I think there's a better chance of Brock winning the title October 4th than of Shayna winning the championship October 2nd. I think Io gets involved and it leads to a triple threat match on the next TakeOver show, whenever that is. I feel like, they just moved to USA. Maybe they'll get some new viewers out of it for NXT. Shayna is the resident badass. She is what Asuka used to be in that women's division. Why take the title off her right away? Unless she's being drafted to Raw or SmackDown, and we still don't know for sure if NXT is even going to be part of the draft next month. Triple H seemed to indicate in an interview recently that NXT may not be. He was kind of being coy. He didn't give a straight answer, but it sort of felt like, as of now, as far as he knew, NXT was not going to be part of the draft, but of course that could change from one day to the next. If they're not, and Shayna's not going anywhere, then I see her keeping the title. If they are going to be drafted, if she is going to be drafted, that changes things. Because I could see Shayna dropping the title and being drafted away the following week. Then you could do Candice and Io for the championship at the next TakeOver show. And give Candice a very short run, like Johnny Gargano had with his NXT title the first time. And maybe in her first defense at the next TakeOver show, she drops it to Io, and we get heel, with Shayna off to Raw or SmackDown, we get heel Io Shirai now to kind of dominate the women's division for a while. So there's a few different possibilities here, but that's kind of how I see it playing out. But if there are no NXT picks in this draft, I'm gonna stick with my prediction. Say that Shayna keeps it. Velveteen Dream and Roderick Strong for the North American title. Another really good match. I like the false finish where Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly tried to interfere after the ref bump. Dream fought them all off. He turned around right into the end of Heartache, only to kick out at 2. See, that's the kind of believable false finish I like. Not when they overdo it, but there's a place for it, and they had me. They had me. I thought that might be it. Dream Valley Driver. Dream goes up top for the Purple Rainmaker, but Adam Cole super kicks him in the head. He falls off. Second end of Heartache, and Roderick Strong is your North American champion. The Undisputed Era is now draped in gold. They had to. They had to end with something memorable for that first big show. It was the right time. It was the right place, I think, to do the title change. And now Dream can chase to get it back. Dream Chaser. See? It just writes it. It writes itself. Now, they could go a different way with it. I was thinking about this too. And actually, this is what I would do. Dream had a run with the North American title, and it was fine. And he had some really good matches as the champion too. And he still, you can tell, he still has a lot of inexperience. But each time I see him in the ring, he looks more than capable, and he gets a little bit better each time. So he had his run with the North American title, with the maroon belt. Okay? Now, what they can do is they're doing a worked injury with Velveteen Dream where his back is all messed up from the backbreakers and everything in the match. And he's not cleared to compete. He's not medically cleared to compete. Maybe they keep him off television for a few weeks. Have Killian Dane or Matt Riddle, probably Riddle, challenge Adam Cole next for the championship, which that's the current plan. It's either going to be Riddle or Dane. That's actually a word. But they're going to have a match this week to determine a number one contender. Assuming they don't win, which I don't believe they will, Dream comes back and he chases Adam Cole for the NXT championship instead. Cole's the one who kicked him in the head and cost him the North American title. It would only make sense for him to seek revenge on Adam Cole, not on Roderick Strong. So that's what I would do. And I'm a Matt Riddle fan, but I would be okay with having Dream challenging Cole for the main title and having Riddle going after Roddy next. And they had a match at TakeOver a few months ago that was actually really good. I certainly would not argue against the Matt Riddle-Roderick Strong feud for the North American title. Hour 2 on the network opened with Pete Dunne beating Arturo Ruas with the finger break spot. I saw Ruas recently on the Evolve show. They sent him and a few other developmental. Him and a few other people from the PC they have sent over to Evolve. Evolve in some ways has become the new NXT. It is now an unabashed feeder system for NXT. I think they said as much on the Evolve show that I watched a few weeks ago. At the very beginning, it might have been the ring announcer or the lead play-by-play guy, I forget who. Some kind of mention of the fact that they are sort of, I forgot the terminology they use, but kind of like almost like the farm system now for NXT. So they've sent, Ruas is one of the people they've sent there, and again, he's getting better each time I see him. He's got a fighting, I think a judo background, but he's very believable in the ring, and he's obviously like a submission guy, and he's fine, but this was a showcase not for him, this was a showcase for Pete Dunne. Then we had Denzel, not Denzel Washington, it was Denzel, I want to make sure I say this right, DeJournette. I believe it, Denzel DeJournette, I believe is his name. I was going to say DiGiorno. Now I'm going to think of pizza every time I see this guy. He was an All-American at Appalachian State last year. Then he moved to Orlando to join the Performance Center. This is our first time seeing him on TV, and we didn't get to see much. He was scheduled to wrestle Kushida when Imperium showed up. They attacked from NXT UK. It was Fabian Eichner, Marcel Bartel, and Alexander Wolf, all minus Walter. Crowd chanted Walter's name. They wanted Walter. Ask and you shall receive. As soon as they hit Walter's music, the place went wild. He came out. Kushida comes out. He attacks the other members of Imperium. Walter grabs him. Kushida slips away. So we're going to get Walter against Kushida. I don't know when. I don't know where. If it'll be in NXT. If it's going to be NXT UK. But we're going to get Walter and Kushida. And that will be awesome. So I like the mix, when I'm watching this, like that last segment, I like the mix of talent that they had on this first show, and I think they need to do this going forward. You want to make 2 hours of NXT work every single week, you got to have a good mix of talent. We had stars on this show from NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live. It's great to have that mix. It's great to have access to all of those different rosters. Case in point, we had a number 1 contenders match for the Cruiserweight title between Oney Lorcan and the returning Lio Rush. I listened to Leo's music. I know he does some music. I listened to his new single a few weeks ago. He came out with a music video for this song called I Wonder. And it's actually pretty good. It's not bad at all. I was starting to think that he was just going to change careers. After he went public with those comments with that Fightful.com interview all those months ago about WWE. And he felt he wasn't being paid fairly and he has to support his family and all this stuff. I thought, and they took him off the road. They took him away from Bobby Lashley. They took him off the road after that. And I thought that was going to be the end of him. So it was a surprise to see him here. Mauro Ranallo said that Leo had more issues than a magazine. Oh, Mauro. He looked great. Frog splash off the top rope for the win. So Lio Rush will challenge Drew Gulak. In between Walter and Kushida. And now Rush and Gulak. I like the direction that things are going, I have to say. And when I talk about not being sure if Leo would ever come back, Luke Harper and Rusev fit into that same category. And all 3 of them came back on television in the same week, within days of each other. Luke Harper, Rusev, and Lio Rush are all back on TV. Matt Riddle and Killian Dane, they were scheduled to have a street fight, spilled outside the building by the production trucks. And there's Imperium. With Walter, they're sitting at a table. Looked like they were out there playing cards. Maybe they were. It just seemed very random to me. They're just sitting at a table outside in like the parking lot between all these production trucks. Walter attacks Riddle. The Street Profits showed up to make the save. Forgotten Sons joined in. Soon, almost the entire roster now is fighting. Pete Dunne was in there. It's a giant melee, as Vince McMahon used to say. Announcer Vince. Announcer Vince used to call it a melee. There were a lot of Vince McMahon, isms back when he was an announcer from the announcer days. And I sometimes find it slipping into my own vocabulary. Sometimes unwittingly. I don't even realize it. But, there were certain words he would always use back then. One of them, notwithstanding. I would always hear him using that word, whether it was on commentary or in other ways. Notwithstanding was always a favorite word of his. And there was another one as well, and I would hear him use it if the heels did something. Oh, God, what was that word? Duplicitous. I never even knew what that word meant until I heard Vince McMahon use it for the first time. So every now and then, those words will slip into my own vernacular. I don't even realize it. I'm sure you guys could think of a whole bunch of different ones that I'm not remembering. I mean, obviously, there's what a maneuver and, anything can happen in the WWF. Those are more not catchphrases, but I guess you can call those Vince-isms as well. But I'm talking specific words that he loves to use. Notwithstanding was always one, and duplicitous was another one. So the brawl spills back into the building at Full Sail, back down to the ring. Officials are separating them. The fans are not happy, and neither was I, because they're in the middle of a street fight. What the hell are you doing? There's no rules in a street fight. What are you breaking them up for? But I have to say, this brawl was great. I thought, as brawls go, this was actually really well done. It was chaotic. It felt like mass carnage. It kind of reminded me of, remember that big angle that Impact did a number of years ago? It was the whole show or something, or the first half of the show, and they had to call the cops to the building. It was this just giant, it was almost like anarchy. It was like a prison riot. And I thought that was kind of well done. This was also very well done. This basically, you know what this was? This was the way that Nitro used to go off the air every single week, except back then it was the NWO and it was Sting. And I mean, we're talking about stars on a whole other level than what we have here in NXT. But in the NXT world, I thought that this was very well done. This Wednesday, it's going to be Keith Lee against Dominik Dijakovic, who I'm sure will be hoping that Kenny Omega watches his match. So we get to see Lee and Dijakovic one more time. Dakota Kai is going to make her in-ring return to NXT. And Matt Riddle, one more time, is going to face off in a street fight against Killian Dane, with the winner getting the shot at Adam Cole's NXT Championship. They did not say when. I would think October 2nd would be as good a guess as any. My main takeaway from this NXT show is that Triple H is not playing around. He's not playing games. This was a strong first effort on TV. They're loading up that October 2nd show, and he's got access to 4 rosters other than his own, other than his core NXT roster, if he wants to use it, if he wants to tap into it, if he can convince Vince McMahon to let him. He's got access to up to 4 different rosters: Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK, and 205 Live. So AEW is going to need to bring its A game right out of the gate if they want to compete.